Welcome back to the channel, and I am here today to talk to you about the Fender Shawbucker 1 humbucking guitar pickup. If you saw my recent video about upgrading the electronics on this guitar, you'll know that I added a Dylan Tone pre-wired control plate with 500K pots and this pickup, and that I love this pickup in the little bit of a demo I played in that video. But today we're going to focus solely on this and what it can do. This was designed a few years ago by humbucker guru Tim Shaw when he went over to Fender. It is very PAF style and design. This is a Shawbucker 1, which is the lower output version. It is 7.6K in output, Alnico 2 magnets, which again makes it very PAF style. So what I'm going to do today is play some blind sound samples with a couple of other guitars with neck humbuckers that I think will be a good real-world comparison for this. So this is not a scientific in a lab, swap them out of this guitar, see exactly how they sound. This is a real-world type way that a player like me or any other guitar player might look at it and what you might actually do. So I have my Fender Ventera 70s Telecaster Custom with an authentic Cuneife wide range humbucker in the neck. That way you will be able to see if you prefer the sound of a PAF style humbucker or a wide range in your Telecaster neck position. Also, I will play my Epiphone Les Paul, which has a Gibson 57 Classic in the neck position, which, though Fender would probably never say this, that is probably the closest analog to this pickup in the Gibson catalog, and I might not go so far as to say that's the pickup upon which this is based, but it's definitely spec-wise its closest competitor. And why I think that will be a good comparison, though obviously this is a Telecaster and that'll be a Les Paul, is that a lot of people put humbuckers in their Telecasters to try to, whether it's because, like it was the case for me when I was in college and growing up, couldn't afford a Les Paul. You want to get a Les Paul tone, you want to put a humbucker in the neck of your Telecaster, or if simply you're playing a gig and it's not a setting where you can switch back and forth between guitars and you want more tele-sounding tones from the bridge and more Les Paul style tones from the neck. So we'll include those in the blind samples to see how close they really are and see if we can pick out which is which, including myself, because I'm going to try to do it in a way that I can sort of listen back to them objectively and see if I can tell the difference, because I'm always interested to see what my reactions are, because sometimes they're not what you think. I honestly think this is going to do really well against those two guitars. I played the wide range a little bit the other day, and we'll wait till it's in a vacuum, but I just say that this, in terms of traditional humbucker tones, this is going to be tough to beat. So, and just before I get started, I'll say this is based on a Squire Bullet Telecaster, so it has a slightly thinner body and it's a poplar. It does have a Fender aftermarket roasted maple neck. The Les Paul is traditional Les Paul specs, mahogany body, maple top with a maple veneer, but it does have an actual maple top. It's not just a veneer on top of mahogany. And the Tele Custom is alder with a maple neck and Palfero fretboard. So just things to keep in mind when listening to the sound samples. All the EQs and volume controls are going to be the same. So let's have some fun, see if we can pick out which is which, and I'll come back with the results. And we are back. Before I reveal which guitar is which, I want to say all those samples were close mic'd with an SM57 with no post-production editing. And what I mean by that is, this is what these guitars would sound like if you plugged them in your bedroom and started playing through these amps and pedals. I don't do any EQ or compression or add any effects in Logic or anything like that like I would with one of my studio recordings. These are just the raw sounds of the guitars from the amps. So, that being said, guitar A was the Les Paul with the Gibson 57 Classic neck pickup. Guitar B was my parts caster with the Fender Shawbucker 1, meaning guitar C was the Fender Ventera Telecaster Custom with the authentic Fender Cuneife wide range humbucker. So, get the guitar of the hour up here. Of course, you can make your own assessments listening to those sound samples. This was a case where it really played out exactly how you would imagine on paper. I think the Tele with the Shawbucker and the Les Paul with the Gibson 57 Classic sounded a lot alike. You could tell bigger differences on the cleaner sounds than the higher gain sounds. The more gain you added, the closer they became, though there was still a difference. And honestly, as I've said before, I'm one of those people who thinks that the pickups make up the vast majority of the sound of an electric guitar, but not the entire sound. And I think this is a case where the construction of the Les Paul, and even though that's an Epiphone, it is a traditionally constructed Les Paul, makes that little difference in the sound, because spec-wise, these pickups are extremely similar. The Les Paul had a little more oomph and girth to it, for lack of a better way to put it. I think this guitar had a little more clarity and not quite as much oomph, but maybe a little more bite. And I think that the Telecaster Custom with the wide range pickup sounded more distinct than these two. But again, the more gain you added, the more similar they sounded. But it was the most Fender sounding, for lack of a better way of putting it. But it should also be noted, these guitars are all wired how you would imagine they would be in these configurations. That means 500 K-pots for this Tele and the Les Paul, a 1 meg pot for the Telecaster Custom, which would add even more high end. So again, you can decide for yourself what you think that means in terms of whether a Telecaster with a neck humbucker sounds like a Les Paul. My personal opinion, does it sound identical? No. But if you were in a situation, as I was in for many years, growing up and in college, where you could not afford to have a lot of guitars, and you needed a Telecaster to cover Gibson type sounds, I think that in a real life band setting, it would be hard to distinguish, especially with a little bit of gain, this guitar from the Les Paul. Again, in isolation, I think you can definitely tell a difference, but it's not a huge difference. And again, I'm also making some assessments from what I heard here in the room, which is a little bit different than what you hear on YouTube, because YouTube does compress everything, as I always say. But I think that it's I think that if you could only have one guitar to take to a gig, I think a Telecaster, of course this one has a rail humbucker in the bridge, but a traditional Tele or a hotter Tele bridge pickup and a Tele with a humbucker in the neck can cover a lot of ground. So, but as it comes to pickup itself, the Shawbucker sounds great, extremely similar to the 57 Classic as you would imagine, and a bit cheaper too, I believe, if you were to buy just a single 57 Classic. So if you're, again, a Fender player, or any type of guitar, not just a Fender, and wanted a PAF sounding humbucker, I think the Shawbucker's a good option. So now, turning the focus back on this guitar, I'm going to play you some more sound samples, and then we will come back for my final thoughts. Okay, get some more sounds out of this Fender Shawbucker in the neck position, going through a Marshall DSL-1 and a Blackstar 2x12 cab, classic gain channel. This is clean. Sounds great. A lot of classic PAF style humbucker sounds there. Now I've turned on the higher gain channel. I grew up in the 90s, I can't resist. So a little bit of lead. Sounds great. Now I'm going to put it back on classic gain and turn on the full drive 2 overdrive, one of my favorite overdrive pedals. Turn on the memory toy analog delay, get some edge type sounds here. Leave it on the classic gain channel. It sounds great. Okay, still on the Shawbucker here. Now we're playing through a Fender Champion 600, a very small tube amp. So just some more clean sounds. I hope those were helpful. Just again, to wrap it up, I really love this pickup. Took me forever to find something to put it in, but I'm really happy that I put it in this guitar. It's just fantastic, sounds great, great Gibson style sounds out of a Fender. And of course the Shawbucker 2 is a little bit hotter. I've never personally had that. I may have played a guitar within a guitar shop, but I've never owned a guitar with a Shawbucker 2. But if you're looking for classic PAF type sounds, this is a great pickup, designed by a legend in the world of guitar pickups, and I highly recommend it. I think that you will not be disappointed. I know that I was expecting a lot after having it for so long, and all the anticipation, and it exceeded those expectations. So now, I have saddles I will be adding to this guitar, as it has been part of the Squier Bullet Telecaster Upgrade series. And I think that that will probably be the last step. So look for that video in the near future, and we will see if that makes any difference over the stock Squier saddles. And one other thing I did want to note, going back really quick to the comparison with this Les Paul, and talking about how the construction might have made a difference in the sound. Something else to keep in mind is, remember, this is a Bullet Telecaster, so it is slightly thinner in the body. So some of you might not think that makes any difference at all. Some of you might think it'll make a noticeable difference. But just keep that in mind, that when we were comparing these two guitars, this is a slightly thinner Telecaster. Of course, the Custom was full size. So just keep that in mind. But again, in terms of this pickup itself, fantastic. Couldn't recommend it enough. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, keep on rocking.